Welcome to Me, I Am Me. This is me. Me, I am. And that is all I can be. Is just me. Alright, so I'm going to kind of touch on a little heavy subject today. I'm going to take a little cruise down Pacific Coast Highway, PCH, headed over to Huntington Beach and back, and that should cover everything that I am going to talk about today. And why I thought to do this particular topic was because wrestling. So, as I've spoken before, I am a professional wrestler, but I've been 5 years off, so I'm trying to get back into it. I'm also, I live in NorCal, so I'm trying to network and get to know everybody. It's a new set of people, and since I haven't wrestled in a while, you got to kind of rebuild those new relationships and trust. Also, I've been off for so long, there's ring rust, and they want to know that I'm training. And hey, fan, what's up? And so, fair enough. And that's what I've been doing. I've been back in the gym. I did train for about 8 months with Brickhouse Pro, and I'm hoping to get back soon once things start to pick up at work and I can afford it. Recently, one of the local NorCal wrestlers, or Central California wrestlers, Sledge the Metalhead Maniac. I met him my first show back after 5 years for Brickhouse Pro, Monstars Inc. 2, and he was a fellow metalhead. So we talked a little bit, found him to be a cool cat. I definitely like his work in the ring, and I like the gimmick. So he gets around a lot, and he's actually a full-time wrestler. He did a podcast recently with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Hell yeah! In that podcast, he became very vulnerable and opened up his life. He was an open book, and just to hear kind of his life story and everything that he persevered through, and battling with his addictions and depression. And one of the key things, he hit rock bottom and he found his way back. He reinvigorated his career, and I found that to be very inspirational. And I have my ups and downs and issues with depression, and he was talking about one thing where he lost his dad at an early age, and that kind of sent him down a spiral down into depression, and kind of had some anger issues, and he was drowning a lot of that stuff in alcohol and pills, and so in that story, I related a lot to my own life. And he was talking about where during his dark times in his life, some of the wrestlers that he was training with are now wrestling around the world full time and making a very good living at it. And it made me think about my wrestling career. I started back in 1996. I had such a love for it. At 12 years old, I said to myself, this is what I want to do. And then at 17, my cousin took me to a WWF live event at the Anaheim Pond, which is now the Honda Center. Look at that. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. And there's Long Beach in the distance. At that show, the ring announcer, Bill Anderson, was signing autographs, and I caught him, and I said, hey, how do you become a wrestler? He's like, well, goes into his jacket pocket and pulls out a business card. And it happened to be for him and his partner's school, the Bill Anderson and Jesse Hernandez School of Hard Knocks. And so a couple years later, I sent out information for it, and I got a catalog back from them, and they were talking about people that they train and their accreditations and stuff like that. And so I started training there back in '96. Very first person to give me my first strike, it was an elbow off the ropes. Christopher Daniels, well-seasoned, world-traveled wrestler, WCW, TNA Impact, ROH, All In, yeah! And it's Louis Spicolli. And then, through the years, I also trained with Joey Ryan, Candice LeRae, who is now Candice Gargano. She's in NXT. Rocky Romero, who's wrestled all around the world and now kind of he's in New Japan Wrestling, and he's one of the Office guys. I try to think. TJ Perkins, who's 205 Live, WWE, he's one of the cruiserweights. He's wrestled around the world on TNA, ROH. So a lot of these guys that I came up with, went off and had, their careers. And that's not to say like I would have been right there with them. Those guys are talented as fuck. Those guys work hard. And not to say that if I didn't work hard, I could be there. But I'm not also making the assumption that I would have been right there with them either. Because those guys are a special kind of people. They're good talent, and they had a mind and a drive to get them where they were going. And when I was coming up, I was dealing with a lot of lingering issues from having an abusive dad. And this wrestler Sledge, so Sledge was talking about the guys that he wrestled with, and I had the same problems. Same issue where I was trying to come up, and these guys I trained with, I see them where they went, and what held Sledge back was his addictions. What held me back was the issues that I dealt with. I didn't know how to get myself out of, and I'm doing better now. But of course, at 41 years old, my wrestling career in regards to becoming a WWE superstar are well behind me. That's not to say that I still can't make it happen on the indie scene and still have a good career where I can hopefully work my way to a point where I could wrestle full time and make some money off my merchandise and everything. I think I'm a pretty darn good wrestler, and if I, given the chance to have some consistency, some weekly bookings, I know that I will improve and become better. And like, why didn't you do that when you were younger? Well, that was the thing, is that, coming up, I didn't immerse myself in the wrestling culture. I did not go to the shows, at every single show, and be the ring crew. I did not go ride and make friends and go ride with these guys to the shows and kind of build that camaraderie with them. I was too busy trying to make life happen, keeping a job and keeping a roof over my head. I struggled a lot. And I think, where Sledge lost his dad at an early age, and then that kind of messed him up, and not having that guidance. I had my dad, but it caused a lot more damage, and I think stunted me from really reaching my true potential. And yes, you can always try to rise up. You can always try to do better. You can always try to change that. But it took me this long, and it took the love of my wife to, have her support and motivation to say, yes, you can still do this. To really kind of get me out of that headspace. And then on top of that, I've been seeing a psychologist for the last couple of years, pretty much every week, once a week. And but that was dealing with the car crash and PTSD and but I'm also expanding that and trying to deal with the issues that I had with my dad. I deal with depression, and I think what I wanted to do was really talk about, how depression can affect somebody, and how it affected me, and how it affected me in the long term, and that it's not easy being green. It really isn't. And one of the things that really pisses me off are the people that talk about suicide and depression. I'm gonna be real with you all. I'm not gonna try to restart this vlog over again. I'm just gonna keep this in and keep it as it is, because I'm having such a hard time with this topic. Talking about it, trying to find it, make it positive, try to be informative, trying to say, hey, there's help, and there is. But it's tough to talk about because I dealt with it. I dealt with it day in and day out. I dealt with it as a young child. I think initially it was probably sadness, but it developed into depression. You shouldn't grow up. No child should grow up with an abusive parent. Just one parent. My mom was loving as fuck. She tried to help as best she could, but my dad was very dominant, and she couldn't do anything about it. And I don't blame her. It is, when you have someone who is as dominant as he was, no child should have to deal with that. I put up on my Instagram, which is Flawless Bikers Cordova, I put up a post recently, and it was a TBT, Throwback Thursday, me as a child, and I was saying, there was sadness behind those eyes. Someone that was starting to struggle with that sadness, that dark storm that was brewing at such a young age. I recognized as a child that something wasn't right. Someone shouldn't be that mean to a child. I had nightmares, and as happy as I was with other people, I always came back to this inner anger. And sometimes, as a kid, even when I found myself cursing out my dad, and I learned foul language from an early age because I heard it from him when he was arguing with my mom about stuff, whatever it was, work or whatever, what have you. I heard foul language at an early age, and I remember using that language to have that inner dialogue to curse out my father because he was so mean to me. I don't think anybody realizes that, when he pulls out the belt and he's looking at you as he's whipping the crap out of you, and you look into those eyes and you see the fire and brimstone of hell behind those eyes. I don't think anybody realizes, that something isn't right with that kind of anger onto a child. I can understand frustration, but to take that anger out that you have at your child for whatever they did wrong, for whatever I did wrong in his eyes, I'm going to be real for you for a minute. When I was a kid, maybe 7 and younger, I had issues with wetting the bed, right? Let's be real. A lot of us did that. Some stopped at an earlier age. Others took a little bit longer. And my dad used to whip the shit out of me every time he found a wet bed. How the fuck do you deal with that as a kid? There's nothing you could have done about it. You wake up and all of a sudden your bed's wet. And that was my fault. He fucking takes a belt out on me. That's some serious shit. So yeah, I grew up a little fucked up, and it really hampered a big part of my life and things that I wanted to do. I never followed through on anything because he never followed through with anything on me. I said, hey, let's, he always told me, when I talked about wanting to become a wrestler, well, you got to work out. I'm like, okay, what do I got to do? Oh, we'll get you a weight set. Weight set never came through, and he never followed through with me on it. If he would have started me on it, I was never self-motivated because he controlled my life. He controlled everything about me. this is serious shit, you know, and it causes depression in me, and it causes pain and sadness. And I don't think people realize, you know, and I think that one of my triggers was that when I see people talking about people who commit suicide, you don't know their pain. Those ones that are talking about how, like, how can they do that? They're such cowards. You don't know what they've gone through. You don't know how they handled it. Everybody handles shit differently. Okay, yay for you, because you pushed it, you pushed through, and you manned up, and you know, you did it yourself. Well, good for you. That's awesome. You know what? I'm praising you. I'm not being sarcastic. Praise for you to do that. But people like myself, we didn't have that inner strength, you know, and it took me a long time to deal with these things and to, you know, break down about it and come, you know, get really personal with my psychologist and getting that stuff out there, and with my wife, and, you know, even with my mom. You know, my mom understood. She knows what happened to me. She was there. And it wasn't something that, you know, she would have loved to have done more, but, you know, it's hard when you're dealing with such a man like that. The video is really just more about, like, saying, hey, there is hope. You can fight your way through. You need a support system. I'm not just talking about the suicide hotline. I'll post that down in the description. That's great. But you need a support system in your friends, in your family. And it doesn't matter. Talk to somebody. Now, I know that when you're in a depression, when that storm is full on, like, on you, it's on top of you, you're in it, there's no talking to anybody, and all I can say is write out the storm, write it out, you know, repeat a mantra that you can get through it. But it's not the end of the world, and you can find it no matter your age. You can find new life. Yes, I can admit to having regrets. It's not easy to accept being this age and knowing that, you know, I missed out on a lot of things. But it's not completely over. It's not like, you know, I'm permanently injured and I can't become, you know, I still can't complete my dream as becoming a professional wrestler. You know, even if I became a weekend warrior and just did it, you know, on a Saturday or Sunday, 2-3 times a month, I could be happy with that. Now, that's not the goal. The goal is to try to make it a weekly thing, and, you know, and live on it, you know, if at all possible, make it a full-time job. But ideally right now, my short-term goal is just be consistent. I just want to be able to get work every weekend and have fun at doing it. That's me accepting, that's me compromising, knowing that, no, I'm not going to become a WWE superstar. It's possible, but a high chance it's not going to happen. So I've come to grips with knowing that career, that part of my life is behind me. But other things I've taken interest in, disc golf, music, these things I can still do. I still have all my limbs, you know. I got a loving wife, you know, 2 beautiful stepchildren, and I got a good solid job. And I'm gonna say, like, you know, life's not all that bad. You know, sometimes you got to take stock in what you got, and you can't just go, well, life is done, life is over, I'm 30 something, I'm 40 something. No, life's not over. Life's not over until you're 6 feet under. And until that time, you can still push forward. You can still try to do the best that you can with this life. And that's the motivation. That's what I took from Sledge's interview. You know, yeah, there's a lot of things that, you know, it's like going back. I didn't get to have the career I wanted to, but I could still make a career happen. I could still enjoy myself. You know, DDP didn't get started until he didn't become world champ. He didn't get started until he was 35. He became world champ at 40. You know, there's still a chance, right? Recently, a few months ago, Tim Storm was the NWA, the newly reinvigorated NWA that Billy Corgan bought and brought back to life and brought back the prestige and tradition. Tim Storm, at 52 years old, was the NWA heavyweight champ. I could do that. I could definitely do that. You know, so always try to be optimistic, you know, and this is coming from me, who's the eternal pessimist. I'm not optimistic all the time. But I definitely try to find positivity when I can. And you know what? When I'm having a dark day, and when I see that storm brewing on the horizon, I just try to keep telling myself to write it out. You know, and I got my wife to confide in to try to help me. And sometimes I don't even want that help. You know, I gotta be open and let her know I'm not pushing her away. I just need time to myself. Because sometimes, you know, you just don't want to do anything, then don't do anything. You don't want to talk to anybody, then don't talk to anybody. But ultimately, I keep pushing through, and you can still push through. So if you're dealing with depression, and you know it happens when you're not in that storm, talk to somebody, set someone up to be your rock, your foundation, someone that you can count on to help you through those times, to recognize, you know, maybe the symptoms, know when to leave you alone, or maybe to at least try to help you out and maybe be the person that pulls you out of it. But I'm never going to fault anybody who ever committed suicide and talk down on them because they couldn't make it happen. Depression is really heavy and it's really painful. And there's no amount of motivational speeches, no amount of alcohol, no amount of anything, no amount of love, support to take away any of that pain. That person has to write it out, and if they can't write it out and they give up, that was a choice that they made, but that doesn't make them a coward. Please just have some understanding when people are dealing with those times. If you recognize it, help them out. If you don't recognize it and you don't understand it, shut the fuck up. No one needs to hear your goddamn opinion about it, because that just makes it harder on them. Someone listening to your ass fucking speaking out of your ass about that shit, you know, that doesn't help somebody who's going through a depression, who reads about it, and then they got to read those comments. I'm gonna keep that to where it's at. I got real dark, and I really kind of opened myself up to everybody, and this is helping me. Like I said in the last vlog, like, I want to talk about this kind of stuff. I'm going to talk about a lot of different things. You know, hopefully this will be the last time I get really this heavy. I'm gonna lighten it up next vlog. So, you know, don't think that if you're coming to this channel and this is your first time listening to me, then, oh man, this guy's gonna be like fucking bumming me out. This is not an every week thing. Last week was really nice because you got to kind of get introduced to things about me. Now you know a little bit more about me as a professional wrestler. And so now, you know, maybe the next topic I'll talk about my partying days and when I became a promoter and I started running Sin Sundays with Yes 1039 DJ at that time, Dirty D. I'm gonna kill this vlog because I was pretty heavy and I'm gonna go need a drink now. And I'm gonna be back at it probably in a couple of weeks. Maybe I'll do this up in the North Bay when I get back up there next week. I'll do it next weekend. I'll go out for a little ride. So I don't know how often I'm gonna get these vlogs out there. I might do them weekly. It just really comes down to time. You know, I am a dad and work a full-time job, and so, you know, I'm gonna do my best to try to make it happen. Anyways, that is all for now. And, you know, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And if you just need someone to talk to, man, just message, comment. And I'll try to help you out the best I can, because I know what it's like. I know the feels. And so just know that all hope is not lost. So anyways, that is it for now. We'll see you later. Till next time. Horns up, baby.